For months, on my way home to my New York City apartment, I would see him, a man tucked into a corner, sleeping soundly on the cold pavement. One day, shortly after moving in, I saved part of my sandwich and gave it to him when I got home late. His name was Joe, and he always called me Blue Angel because of my black and blue hair. After that day, he always said hi to me if he was awake. Joe kept a witty joke or a funny story just for me when I'd see him, and I came to look forward to seeing him. I finished work late at night, and just seeing him tucked under his blankets somehow made me feel safer. In return for his kindness, I'd bring him snacks and food, sometimes clean socks, whatever I could afford. If he wasn't there, I'd leave the food in his corner there on the street in a light blue cloth bag, and hoped he'd find it before someone else would. Getting home late one night, exhausted from work, I wasn't paying attention to my surroundings, and a guy started following me. I remember hearing the footsteps on the pavement first, and as they closed in, I turned to see him just behind me, a sickening grin on his face. His hair was long and gray, and he pulled me into a covered entry of a store and held my arms back. As he leaned in, I heard what could only be described as a roar, and the man was gone. The bag he'd pulled off my shoulder was on the sidewalk, and I ran to grab it. That's when I saw Joe, or what I thought was Joe. He was beating this man against the wall, and when the man cowered and stopped fighting, he stepped back and let him run away down the alley. Joe was bigger somehow, wider, and his long coat looked more like black wings than the tattered overcoat I was used to seeing. I was shaken, and he turned to me, and his head lowered, eyes gleaming animal-like in the darkness. Stunned, I watched as he slinked away from me down the alley in pursuit of the gray-haired man, licking his bloody fingers. I was so shaken. I couldn't think straight. What had I just seen? I thought maybe I'd imagined it. There was no way my mild-mannered friend was something else. For days, I didn't see Joe. I was so conflicted, terrified of what I'd seen, but also desperately wanting to know more. I put snacks in the blue bag and left it in the corner like usual, but they were left untouched. There was no sign of Joe. Finally, last night, the bag disappeared again. I hoped Joe was back. I wondered whether anyone else knew him, and I popped into the convenience store at the end of my block. The old man behind the counter looked surprised when I asked him if he knew Joe, the Joe that slept just outside. He made the sign of the cross and told me he'd died last year. Last year? I described him again, and the man just nodded. None of this could be happening to me. It was surreal. The man I had befriended, who I knew as Joe, had been dead for a year. Stunned, I made my way back home and opened my door to find the blue cloth bag just inside my door. I opened it and reached inside to pull out a strip of leather. No, not leather. Dried skin with long gray hair. The same gray hair from the man who'd attacked me. I hope you like my gift. It had to cure. He won't be bothering you again, Blue Angel. I could feel him beside me, but there was no breath, no human warmth, and then he was gone, leaving behind the smell of old